What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Project X Talk. My name is Kevin, aka The Muffin Mon, and today I'm back with another episode of Game Pass in Review. And it's a big one. It's the big March drop of Guardians of the Galaxy, which just came to Game Pass, and I've played it. So, what are my thoughts? If you're one of the holdouts that still haven't played this game, I'm going to tell you whether it's worth your time or not. So, if you like this content, make sure to hit the like button, share it, and drop us a sub as we make our way to 1,000 subscribers. But let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy from Eidos Montreal and Square Enix. The game originally came out in October 2021, but if you're like me, you may have been wary of picking it up. I know I was certainly concerned as initial trailers didn't really sell me and didn't look too promising. And I had just come off the Avengers game, which really had me concerned. As that game had an okay story, but overall gameplay didn't really do much for me. With all that said, I'm here to say that this is actually a pretty good game. I would say this is another fantastic single player experience in the Marvel universe, such as Spider Man and older Marvel games that people probably have forgotten by now, but there used to be really good Marvel games, and this is a good one. You start the game as young Star Lord, listening to music in your bedroom on your birthday. Your mom comes in, the scene fades to black, and you awaken in the Milano with the other Guardians about to go to a planet to capture a monster and sell it for money to Lady Hellbender. This essentially is the tutorial world that will introduce you to the game's mechanics. And let me tell you, there are quite a few mechanics in this game. First off, the thing you will notice right away is there's no run button, there's no sprinting. You basically move at the speed that your character is programmed to move at, whether that be, normal speed, which is a quick enough pace to not feel cumbersome. But there are sections of the game where you feel weighed down and they slow you to basically a snail's pace. And that really drives me nuts. This is something I had to get used to, but even when I was running on performance mode, the game will feel a little floaty. It's just not a very smooth feeling game, in my opinion, and it'll take you a second to get used to. However, the actual gameplay, it consists of you navigating each level to get to the next objective. Along the way, you have to solve puzzles and you do some platforming to get where you need to go. But what I like about puzzles in this game is it really makes you feel like a team. You utilize all the Guardians. So, for the Guardians of the Galaxy, you have something called Guardians Menu. You hit left bumper on Xbox and you can instruct your fellow teammates to do actions in and outside of combat. These will be vital in order for you to progress throughout the game, as you'll need the abilities to solve puzzles. Groot can form bridges made of his roots. Gamora uses her ability to hang on walls, allowing you to reach higher places, and she can cut through certain passages. Rocket is small, he can fit inside tiny places, and he can hack terminals. Meanwhile, Drax is able to use his strength to pull, move, and throw heavy objects. These all work in coordination and make it really fun to solve puzzles. In between these puzzle sections, you will have combat areas. And these are sectioned off areas with planned combat sequences. There's no random encounters, there's no exploring and finding other enemies. The combat isn't awful, but it does get very repetitive towards the later stages of the game. The enemies can feel a bit bullet spongy, but what I like is that the game has fantastic accessibility options. This means you can change the difficulty at any point, and you can actually set a custom difficulty, allowing you to increase your damage and decrease enemy health and damage. You can change your shield regen rate and so many other fantastic options that really allow you to tailor the experience to your preferred playstyles. And I think this makes the game so much more enjoyable. I utilize these options because it was cumbersome, it was annoying feeling like the enemies just soaked up your bullets. So, yeah, I set a custom difficulty. It did not take away from my experience in the game at all. As I mentioned, the Guardian menu is available during combat, and each of your teammates and yourself will have three special abilities and an ultimate ability that you can unlock through skill points. After every battle, depending on your performance, you'll get experience points. And once you fill the experience bar, you get a skill point. Pretty simple. While there isn't a skill tree, this does allow you to mix up combat and utilize your team's abilities to best suit your situation. You can also execute team attacks by hitting Y and B together when enemies are stun locked. The prompt will appear, and this will lead to a little cutscene where you and all of your allies attack one enemy together. Star Lord is who you'll be playing as. You don't have access to the other characters. You can just issue them orders, similar to how your teammates in Mass Effect work. Star Lord has his blasters and different abilities to go with him, but he can also use melee attacks. However, as you progress throughout the game, your blasters will get different elements, such as ice, allowing you to freeze enemies and stagger them and then team up on them with the other guardians. Each enemy has a weakness, so you'll be able to find out what works best for what situation. Such as for ice, there's these jelly monsters that basically like jello. Ice works really well, it freezes them, and you can smash their gelatinous shields. Apart from that, there's also something called the momentum bar. If you're doing well in battle, this bar fills up and eventually you're going to be able to huddle up. This essentially activates a little cutscene where the Guardians come together and Star-Lord gives one of two dialogue options. If you choose the right one, you get an increase to damage and other stats, and it can also revive all fallen teammates. There are boss battles in the game, but my main critique with these is that a lot of the battles feel pretty scripted. You hit one quick time event and it plays out to defeat the enemy boss. It's not a major criticism, but it is something that I noted during my playthrough that took away from the epicness of the boss fights. However, for me, the star of this game is the interactions between the Guardians. Whether it is on the Milano or during missions, you're going to hear the Guardians bickering and talking to Peter, and this will give you dialogue options that can affect how party members feel about you. For example, if Drax wanted to throw Rocket across a ravine, but you didn't let him, you'll get a notice that Rocket appreciates you for sticking up for him. I honestly don't know how much these actually changed the overall story because I felt throughout my playthrough, despite me being very nice to Rocket Raccoon, he was an absolute jerk to me. So I really don't know how much it changes. There is a lot to love for Marvel fans here, lots of Easter eggs and collectibles to collect on the planets. You have different costumes, which I really love. You have the movie costumes. So if you prefer those designs, you can put them in their movie accurate costumes. However, one thing I have to touch on is the soundtrack to this game, which is absolutely phenomenal. So many classic rock songs like Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Don't Fear the Reaper, and even Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley. It's an absolute joy. And if you want to stream this game, there's actually a feature to disable licensed music, which is something you love to see in these days of DMCA copyright strikes. Now, while I think there's a lot of good in this game, I have to say I do have some issues with the performance. I played in performance mode my entire experience, but towards the end of chapter 5, I started noticing stuttering during scenes, frame rate drops, and the amount of times my character's weapons would be through their character models was absolutely ridiculous. Drax basically stands there with his knives from his front through to his back the entire game. It blew my mind that there are so many little lack of polish in this game. That's really what it is. There's a lack of polish. It doesn't majorly affect you, but it does get frustrating, especially when cutscenes are stuttering and lagging. And I've looked it up. This is a common issue. It was especially common on PC. Unfortunately, it seems to have carried over into this version of the game, which isn't great, but overall, it's fine. I looked past it, and it's nothing to do with the Series X and the power there, and it's not to do with my TV either because I have an OLED, so I have variable refresh rate. I have all the features. It's just something in the game needs a patch. Probably, I hear you don't experience on quality mode, but however, my overall thought is I highly recommend Guardians of the Galaxy if you haven't played it yet. This is a fantastic experience with lots of charm, amazing voice acting, and a story that any Marvel fan is going to appreciate. I've heard some people say that they like these versions of the Guardians more than their movie counterparts. I don't personally fall in that camp. I think there is a lot to love about the performances here, but I there's something about the movie ones that I just feel like they're chemistry is better. And that's not to take away from any of the performance here, which I do think are fantastic. I just think there's something in the writing is lacking for me. I didn't feel the connection between all of them as much as I wanted to, but it's still an overall good experience. So let me know your thoughts down below. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you want more content. And if you want our content early, head on over to patreon.com/projectxtalk. $1 a month, you can get all our content early. Follow us at Project X Talk on Twitter and follow me at the Muffin Mon. But until next time, guys, I'll see you. Goodbye.